ahead.
I'm Lainey.
And I'm Laura Beth.
And we are Steel Magnolias.
Two sisters who love family, traditions, and all things Southern.
We've got plenty of room at our table, so pull up a chair.
Hey, Lainey.
Hi, Laura Beth. What a Southern afternoon we're already having.
I know.
Laura Beth brought me some beautiful peonies from her yard
Fresh
to
cut.
share. And she walked in and I was making us mint juleps.
I know. Favor for favor.
That's
we just
right.
exchanged well right there.
So sweet.
Well, we'll be talking a little later as to why we're exactly drinking mint juleps this week.
Yes.
Because it is apropos.
That's right.
Given the first weekend in May. But we, you know what? We had a viewer, or a listener, I should say. We don't have any viewers.
No viewers.
Nobody can see us. They can only hear us. That mentioned an article that I thought was really interesting. So thank you, Lynn. She shared an article from an NPR story that we wanted to talk about. It was called Saving the Story of Grits, a dish born of poverty, now on fine dining menus.
So we're talking the food grits, not the acronym Girls Raised in the South.
Oh my goodness, I totally forgot about those t-shirts.
You know, you see shirts and things that say grits, Girls Raised in the South.
Are they still around, or has that group moved on, or
I
is
don't
that
know, but
apparel?
one of our listeners, Eve Sarah, shout out, whoop whoop, she's in a group called The Grits.
Okay.
And they are a group of, I don't know, I want to say there's 20-ish of them who've gathered for a long time.
Wow.
Friendship.
Just
community.
Southern girls, huh?
Yes.
That's awesome.
So.
Ooh, well, if anybody's got a grits t-shirt laying around, model it for us.
That's right.
I had
I'd love to
forgotten
see
about
that.
those till you mentioned it just now.
But we're talking food today.
Food groups. And just to make sure that this was a topic that was relevant and that people might want to hear about, I did do a poll on our Facebook page and asked just blanket question, didn't give specifics, do you like grits? I didn't say what kind of grits. I didn't say how cooked in a certain way.
How were they made?
I just asked yes or no, do you like them? And 85% of you said that you do like grits. And another handful of you said yes to shrimp and grits.
Okay.
So
we're not sure if that's the grits or the shrimp.
We have a majority rule on grits. And so we just thought it would be fun to dive into this. The article itself, like I said, it's an NPR story. You can look it up. Saving the Story of Grits, and then I'll share in their show notes.
It's a pretty interesting article.
I
was glad Lynn sent that.
Yeah. It talked to the writer talks to a food writer named Erin Murray, who has a book out called Grits, A Cultural and Culinary Journey Through the South. And she mentions talking to people about grits that it starts opening up conversations about bigger things. Mm-hmm. And the writer, Murray, she had just moved to the South, and it seemed like the people who were reviving grits as a food didn't really match its origins.
Okay.
Origins meaning more of a impoverished people group. Mm-hmm. So we just thought, let's start from square one, talk about just the lay of the land on grits. Because Sean Brock in the article, he says that
who's a James Beard Award-winning Southern chef.
Founder of Husk.
That's in McCrady's in Charleston.
Exactly. And onto his own new projects that we're excited about here in Nashville. Well. He says that grits take on the flavor of where they're grown. So,
which I would say all things do. Like that are growing from the ground.
Right.
Like what is
soil. Soil matters.
The soil matters. What's in the air matters. All of that.
Yeah.
So, and the process of... Yeah. But I would say, even in thinking through this, as you just were saying, you know, it's kind of a poor man's food.
It is.
Think about almost all things that are like a porridge.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's like the porridge of Southerners, right?
Yeah, it is that.
Yeah.
And so our mom would be in the group that says, I don't really like grits. Well, I'd be willing to bet she probably had like instant grits really often.
Yes.
So she says no to that. But I think it's a whole different ballgame if you're talking about a really nice corn that's been stone ground, like fresh from a mill.
Yeah.
It would be like comparing, okay, I've had Wonder Bread And I don't like bread. Well, have you ever had fresh bread?
That is so good.
Completely different thing.
Yeah.
It's not gummy. It's, so it's almost not fair if you've only had like a cheap, poor version versus of anything.
Yeah. So grits probably, or the research I did, went by a different name when it was first introduced to English immigrants that were coming here and meeting indigenous people. The indigenous people that were living here were grinding up this corn, and that's what they were
because corn
primarily
grows well
eating.
Here, so it's a good staple food in the South.
So when we talk grits, we're talking about a food that is a dish of ground up cornmeal. Corn, it's ground down. We think, because we're not the experts, we think there's 4 types of grits. Stone ground.
Yes.
Regular or quick, sometimes referred to. And then also, thirdly, instant.
Which are like cooked and dehydrated in packet kind of a thing, like really fast.
Exactly. Yeah, as instant as you could get. And then a 4th group being hominy. Now, hominy would be a corn that's been treated with like an alkali treatment that is starting to get more scientific than I'm going to go down. But I think those would be the primary.
Gives it a different flavor, though. I'm not a huge fan of that flavor, personally.
Yeah. Do you think if you were in one of these fine dining restaurants, would they probably list it as hominy grits?
I think so, yeah.
I think they would, too. In fact...
Otherwise, I think you're going to mostly see it stone ground is probably the word you're going to see. Maybe fresh milled. I don't know. They would use a word like that.
The Hominy Grill, which was a renowned restaurant in Charleston, just closed. Yeah. Sorry. When I think of hominy, I think of Hominy Grill. That's how renowned they are. So I didn't ever make it there. But we, okay, so Lainey is a strong proponent of go stone ground or go home. We should do a t-shirt.
Yeah, I just think it's a totally different. Now, it takes longer. So, no shame on if you're making eggs and want some grits next to it and you don't have an hour. Completely get it. I wouldn't take an hour at 6 a.m. to make stone ground grits. But
people do.
People do.
Not us.
And if you soak them overnight, they do cook faster, but now we're down to maybe 30, 40 minutes. We're not still super fast. So anyway, but yes, I think it's a totally different flavor.
Well, they're more nutritious as well, stone ground.
Yeah, anything that's fresher is.
Exactly. Like you're not sucking out the nutrients. They haven't undergone the
process.
Dehydration process. And typically... grits are healthy, but as we do in the South a lot of times...
we add butter and cream.
We make them less nutritious.
That's right.
By adding all of our high-calorie ingredients.
Yes.
So, you mentioned that they're kind of hard to find grocery-wise,
well, grocery store-wise.
Yes.
So... in fact, I'm making shrimp and grits for a precious neighbor that I'm going to miss so much. She's moving.
Well, she can still listen to the podcast.
She can still listen from Ohio, and I hope she will. Carolyn, I'm going to miss you. But anyhow, I'm having her for dinner because she's moving in about a week, and we're having shrimp and grits tonight.
Nice.
So I'm soaking grits as we speak to
cook
them later. And, so in going to purchase those... it's not super easy if you don't have a fresh mill close to you, because you have to basically go to a place that sells fresh milled grits or order them online or something. Because Kroger didn't have any other than the quick or instant. They didn't have stone ground. Yeah, Publix did have stone ground. I think the brand is called House of Autry. I've used their products before, like a Hush Puppy mix and. Publix carries that brand, and so they're okay. They're good. I wouldn't say they're the best, but they're
Have you used Bob's Red Mill?
I have not.
Have you seen that? That's probably a label you would recognize, because I feel like I don't even know anything about grits.
Okay.
Well, very little, and I recognize
You recognize that. I might know it if I saw it, but I haven't used that one. I've used... the Lodge Outlet that we've mentioned before,
yes,
they carry a brand called Palmetto Farms, which you can actually order on Amazon.
That's the best-selling grits on Amazon.
It's maybe the only one, though, of Stone Ground. I don't know. Maybe it's not, but it's
how it got
definitely on
best-selling.
there. So it's a good one. I just ordered some from Anson Mills in Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm really excited to get those and try them. I got 2 different kinds of grits and a Pharaoh, because I've had Pharaoh in some salads and things at nice restaurants, and I've never played with it. So I just got some so I could play with it a little bit. In fact, I'll tell you after ordering it about a recipe I came across that's going to be fun to talk about later. But anyhow, I do have some mentions of a few places. Do you want me to go ahead and do that?
People need to, if you want to try this, I mean...
Yeah, you got to know where to go. You can get those Palmetto Farms at a Lodge store, Lodge factory store in Pigeon Forge or South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, maybe even other places. But and they also have them on Amazon. There's a company called Old Mill in Pigeon Forge that also has them. And when we stayed at that bed and breakfast in Cumberland Gap, they were a corn mill.
That's
and they
right.
sold grits there. And I have gotten some there, and I'm not so sure it wasn't this Old Mill brand, because it looked familiar to me.
Okay.
But anyway, if you're ever near a corn mill, try theirs. I'm sure they have them, and they'd be so good.
And again, back to our original point, they may taste different than any that you can get in your own local
That's right.
town.
So just even fun to experiment if you like experimenting with food. So the Anson Mills is what I'm getting ready to try that I've ordered. There's another brand called Geechee Boy Mill in Edisto Island, South Carolina, which is about an hour from Charleston.
Okay.
And Geechee, you probably know, Gullah Geechee is a people group in the Charleston area that know a lot about grits.
Yes.
That are mostly from West Africa.
Absolutely.
So some of the best food of Charleston is influenced by this Gullah Geechee people group that knows a lot about coastal food.
Yes.
So they have, you can order from them online. They're not on Amazon or anything.
Okay.
And same for another place called Mills Farm in Athens, Georgia.
Okay.
You can order from them directly. Same for Anson Mills. You have to order from them directly. They're not.
And see, then again, there's probably either...
So I had to pay for shipping. The grits prices were very comparable, but then I had to pay $12 to ship it.
My goodness.
So that's why I thought, well, I'll go ahead and get a couple of different kinds and some Pharaoh just to make it worth the $12.
See, you're not in the regular population that's going to be willing to pay $12.
No, that's very unusual for me. You know that. I don't do that. And then later I even had a little bit of guilt, and I thought, no, just you like doing this. It's almost a form of my entertainment.
It is.
Cooking things. But anyway, that Mills Farm in Athens, Georgia, they're known for one called Red Mule Grits. They're featured at several big name restaurants in Georgia, the Red Mule Grit. And it's named after the 1,250-pound mule that powers their mill.
Oh, my goodness.
So, anyhow, I just thought that was kind of funny.
That's so great.
Those have been put in fine dining restaurants in Georgia. So,
well, I would guess, if somebody's probably an Amazon Prime shopper, go with the Palmetto Farms Stone Ground Grits. Try those. I have yet to tap into Stone Ground. I know you are a proponent of that. My first entry was not instant cooking, but the one step up, which would be quick. So it's funny that they sound so similar. Mm-hmm. Instant and quick are different. The instant has been super dehydrated. But even my Southern Living recipe that I just followed for shrimp and grits casserole, which was divine. Mm-hmm. I'm repeating that again. Mm-hmm. It called for quick cooking or regular. Okay. So I'm new to cooking with grits, but if it's covered in butter and cheese
and sometimes cream,
and then you slop shrimp and all this bacon grease on top and make this nice little sauce,
you can't go wrong.
Anybody would love grits at that point.
You cannot go wrong. That's right.
So would you consider yourself one that enjoys breakfast style grits and shrimp and grits, or one or the other?
I like both.
You like both. Okay.
I like them next to eggs.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a fan of grits,
Okay.
period. But I really love savory.
Okay.
Like just savory things. Like
So how would someone savorize grits to the best of your
that's a good way to
opinion?
even ask that question, Laura Beth. There's many ways you can do this, and different people have different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And I even think, not to get more complicated, but it kind of matters what you're doing with the grits. Like Sean Brock, I've heard him say before, if you're cooking a dish that has a lot of onion in it,
Yeah.
that's going to have already a lot of flavor. So maybe you soak the grits in vegetables broth, not chicken broth. Because chicken broth is going to make, like if you cook your grits, if it calls for water and you use chicken broth instead, it's going to soak in a lot of that chicken flavor and really have a lot of flavor.
Okay.
But if you're cooking something that has onion, do you want there's a
Right.
lot happening. Maybe you just go with a vegetable, which I thought was interesting.
That's
I
very
haven't
smart.
done that.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that because you don't cook with onion much. But
I don't.
anyhow, that is one thing I would say is sometimes adding in chicken broth where it calls for water is going to cause it to have more flavor.
Yeah.
And then if you're making something that you want it really creamy, adding cream or milk
Yes.
instead of water.
Yes.
A lot of times your directions on the stone ground grits will kind of give you some direction, and then you
Okay.
can kind of play with it. But one thing that's really important is stirring all the time.
So I watched a few YouTube videos in preparation for this because I was just curious on if there was even different preparation
Techniques
styles
and-
that
yeah.
people. This lady,
That's huge.
I mean, I was almost hypnotized at how long she was stirring these grits. It was
You have to do
It was
that.
a 10-minute YouTube video. That's what I did this weekend. I watched a lady on YouTube stir grits.
Well, but you know what? You can see when that starch changes in there.
Yes, you
Like
can.
you have to, and when you are cooking them, if you put a spoon in it and it stands up, it needs liquid. Like
Right, it should be creamy,
You want
not
it
gritty.
creamy.
You don't want your grits
and
gritty.
I've done it where it was too gritty.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's why you got to really watch it.
Yeah.
And so when you're cooking stone ground grits and you haven't soaked them or anything, it's going to take an hour. And that's not an hour of walking around doing other things. Mm-hmm. That's
true. You
like
gotta
every
tend.
5 to 7 minutes you're at least
tending.
stirring.
Yeah.
So that's a commitment. That's why I was saying I
is.
wouldn't do that at 6 a.m., but it's worth it to me for the flavor. If I'm going to invest in, like, the shrimp and grits I'm making tonight, I've bought shrimp, I've bought andouille sausage. I'm not then going to put all of that on something that's flavor,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm going to stand there. I'm going to stand there and stir it.
Well, in 1976, South Carolina declared grits the official state food.
That's hilarious.
And you had mentioned that you think
I think that they're considered the shrimp and grits capital of the world.
that's
I think.
amazing.
So,
Well,
and there's different, I also didn't mention, but there's white grits, yellow grits, blue grits, speckled grits. I've never had speckled grits. I think I've had the other three, but just even that is different and like what you might want to do with it, you know, what kind of flavor you're wanting to pull. The yellow has more of a corn flavor to me most of the time. So do you want it to be real corny or do you want it to be, you know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
what flavor are you going for?
yeah. Well, we will, in the show notes of this episode, I'm going to list a lot of the places that you mentioned in
Okay.
case anyone's interested in buying some and trying it on their own. And then I mentioned the shrimp and grits casserole. I'm also going to find this one online. I only have a printed card of it, but it's pimento cheese grizzotto. Do you remember this?
Come on with that.
We went to an event.
We did have that.
And Two Brooks Farm was there. Two Brooks Farm is...
rice grits risotto with pimento cheese.
Yeah, out of Mississippi.
That sounds good.
And so they handed out a recipe card, and I will put this on. I have not made this, but it just sounds wonderful.
Well, what I'm making tonight, if you want the recipe, I can give you this too. I don't want to get into overload, but it's called Cajun shrimp and grits.
Okay.
It's got quite a kick to it. There's ways you can make it not have a kick if you don't use the Cajun spices and you get like a not very spicy andouille sausage. But the way it's printed, it's pretty spicy.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
really good. So,
well, the question that the article posed that I'd like us to circle back on is, do we think that fine dining establishments should be offering grits on their menu? What's your answer for that?
I say go. Absolutely. And let people see that grits, just like anything else, has a high-end, wonderful flavor if done right.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like the question, but it kind of makes me laugh at the same time, because is there any other food that you see like so analyzed that we're like, is this worthy of being?
That's not even fair, is it? Like, it's like a grain. Like, do you say like, is wheat worthy?
Right.
If it's done right, is Pharaoh worthy? I mean,
like, are we going to get into the history of okra and figure out like what people group introduced this, and is it of an element and an entitled people group that should be eating such a it's just funny to me. Right. So yeah, sure, if it works with food that's being offered,
and
why
to me,
not?
it's all about flavor. And high-end restaurants, by goodness, they should be having some really fresh, really local ingredients for the prices that people pay for it.
Sure.
So,
yeah, maybe that's really where it stands is, if you're marking up a menu item, is that fair to your
But I say
consumer?
It's like any other grain.
But it sounds like it can get pretty darn expensive.
Yeah. If you're getting...
It's no longer like just a poor man's food.
Exactly.
So, anyway.
Yeah, I think that's same for any grain. Like, it can be great or not great, depending on what process it's been through.
Yeah. Well, I digress. It's a fun, special week here in the South. It's an important one.
Yes, I have a funny that I don't know if I've ever said to you. Laura Beth, talk derby to me.
That's exactly what we're going to do today. So it is almost time for the call to post, because it is almost the first weekend in May, which means it's the Kentucky Derby.
That's right. The most exciting 2 minutes in sports.
In sports, that's right. So this is the 145th Kentucky Derby, which will be this Saturday, May 4th in Louisville, Kentucky at the famed Churchill Downs.
That's right. It's run annually since 1875.
Yeah.
And has only been beaten by the Mardi Gras as the oldest cultural institution in the South.
Really? Boom. And continuously, every year, they have had this race. So that is...
quite impressive.
It is.
It really is. And, oh, by the way, I didn't tell you this, but you should look up pictures, and maybe we should post a picture. I have an old picture that I love of... it was like from the 30s or something of the Derby, just the crowd. And it's just really fun to see all those hats and clothes from other eras and think about this has been going.
And holding that tradition.
In the 1900s.
Which we love 20s. On this podcast.
That's right.
Traditions.
That's right. So check out some of those old photos from the Derby. It's pretty.
Those are on the Kentucky Derby website?
No, I was on Pinterest.
Okay. I think they've got some on the website, because I found a timeline that you can look at over history, and I think they have some photos.
Now, Churchill Downs has a Kentucky Derby museum.
Okay.
That is fabulous. If you're ever in Louisville, it's definitely worth going.
Okay.
Even if it's not
year-round, right?
Race time. In fact, maybe even more if it's not race time, because there's not going to be crowds. But that museum is really good. And then through the museum, they also have tours of Churchill Downs.
Okay.
And I did want to mention, they have one called the Barn and Backside Tour.
Okay. That's a fun name.
Fantastic. So they take you to see literally all the barns where the horses are.
No way.
And I did it on the Saturday before the Derby 2 years ago and got to see 3 of the horses' morning routine exercise. Wow. So just a tiny piece of it, if because this tour takes place, I want to say we had to be there at 7:30 a.m.
Wow.
Most of the morning exercise is over. We're talking early morning if you want to see any horses running, because it starts getting too hot. But
they have to take good care of themselves.
Yeah, that's right, because this is their huge investment. But if you can ever do that tour, I want to say it was $15 additional to the price of the museum, which wasn't that much.
Okay.
Very great and worth the price. And our tour guide, he was in his like later 60s and had lived within 5 miles of Churchill Downs his entire life.
Wow.
So very knowledgeable.
Yeah, I wonder if everyone that lives in that area is hyper on the Derby.
You would have to at least be so touched by it. I mean, you're talking about an attendance of 170,000 people.
That's crazy.
And so even seeing video at this Kentucky Derby Museum, it's showing the grounds. And so if you, and it's in a neighborhood that's not like fine homes and things like that. So you're talking about, you know, a small home that may be charging for parking and selling barbecue in the front yard.
Wow.
All weekend. So, you know, it's just very much touches your life.
Yeah.
You're selling things in the front yard and parking cars. And we've talked about before the private airport that's, you know, the airport that's there for the private jets that are coming in left and right. I mean, so much activity. It's a really interesting day.
It's a big deal, and it's also referred to as the Run for the Roses because of the large amount of roses that are draped over the winning horse. I'll get into some more details on that in just a minute.
So sweet.
But, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew this race is only open to 3-year-old thoroughbreds.
Right.
This
and
is
I would
their
even almost
one
say
shot. They get one shot.
One shot, and we've never had a female winner. So
Never?
there almost was.
I do remember her.
and
That was a sad story.
Yeah, it was terrible. So anyway, I don't even want to talk too much about that.
Well, it's a distance of 1.25 miles. It typically takes right at 2 minutes, which is why they call it the greatest 2 minutes of sports. Yeah, and, you know, I looked it up. There's only one horse that had a record or a win under 2 minutes. It was right at 1:59.
And that had to be Secretariat.
Yes.
Fastest ever.
1973 Secretariat. And if you haven't seen that movie, it is fantastic.
Unbelievable horse, unbelievable story, and still unbelievable record.
Talk about stepping out in faith.
Yeah.
Diane Lane, that plays the lead character, is...
It's a wonderful story for families, but it's such a wonderful story as a woman, I felt like.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt like she really broke into some circles.
But see, I was confused when I recently heard somebody else say something about a derby. It may have been you, but that was not in reference to the
Like
Kentucky
an Arkansas
derby.
or a Florida Derby. Or
So I only associate the word derby with the Kentucky Derby, but derby is a British term that really just means a game between local sports teams in Britain. We would take it to mean an annual horse race for 3-year-olds, but it's named after the 12th or 1780s, the 12th Earl of Derby in England. So it's not necessarily just the Kentucky Derby that's a derby. I just wanted to make sure other people knew that too.
And I think it's fascinating, just as a Southern podcast, to look at there's typically 20 horses, not always, but 20-ish horses in the race.
Yeah.
And fascinating thing to look at is how many of them were born in Kentucky.
That's crazy, yes.
Because often it'll be 17 of the 20 or 15 of the 20. I mean, by far, majority.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
That is. And even with that, it's interesting to look at the winners, and I know I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but just like records that were broken or times, Triple Crown winners, the way they're clustered. It's almost like that kind of mental game that athletes go through.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about later. But
before we jump into that,
and even looking at their parents, I mean, you see, like, okay, these highly valued horses are going to breed the same. It's just fascinating. So,
well, I just wanted to make mention that the whole Kentucky Derby, the whole genesis of it started in 1872 when Meriwether Lewis Clark, I don't know if you saw this on this history's on their website, the grandson of grandson of William Clark of the famed Lewis and Clark. So the grandson travels over to Europe, and while there, Clark attended the Epsom Derby in England. It was a well-known horse race, and he, is like hanging out with this French jockey club. And he just basically caught vision for it, and he was so inspired upon his return back to the States, he determined to create a spectacle horse racing in the States. And with the help of his uncles, John and Henry Churchill, who gifted Clark the necessary land to develop a racetrack, formally organized a local group of fans he named the Louisville Jockey Club, and he raised funds to hold a permanent racetrack. And on May 17th, 1875, the racetrack opened its gates, and the Louisville Jockey Club sponsored the very first Kentucky Derby. I think it's interesting. There were approximately 10,000 spectators that day.
Wow. That's
I'm just
impressive.
trying to wrap my mind around 10,000 people being gathered in 1875.
Seriously.
How do you do that?
Seriously. That's amazing.
I mean, that's...
Yeah. And, Winston Churchill was a big horse guy, but Churchill Downs is not a connect.
Okay.
Yeah, him.
That's interesting to make that point,
but
too.
He was a horse
So
lover.
How does how does a horse get in? There's 20 horses, as you said, on race day. So...
Ish, yeah.
20-ish, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Sometimes somebody gets sick.
Not more than that, though.
Right.
If there's less, then somebody's probably had a slot and they've dropped out,
That's right.
For one reason or another. But these horses have traveled a long road, physically and mentally, even, or
likely been racing a lot in the months before.
Yeah,
yeah.
There are approximately 35 racing tracks that take place that have points that are awarded, and I'm not going to get into specifics here.
Yeah,
but it's like a point system.
Yeah.
So they've been tracking and getting their points awarded at different races.
This many points if you win the Florida Derby. Yeah, and this many. Yeah,
exactly. So the winning horse is awarded a prize of $2 million, which there's so much more money happening around this race, I think.
Oh, gosh.
Around the bets and sponsorships and everything else.
Yeah.
That that number does sound large, but it also seems minuscule when you think about
the amount that's flying around the room.
Yeah, exactly.
There's $1,000 mint juleps you can purchase.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, people are dropping money. Like, can't wrap my mind around it.
Well, I think it was funny that one of the ways, I mentioned that there were 10,000 spectators there. One of the ways that the originator recruited patrons to come to this was he talked to some really high society women.
Okay.
And he used high-class women to recruit his target clientele to attend the race. And the race then became just as much about fashion.
Which I would say is still
racing.
how it is today.
Exactly. It has literally held that. And
did you know Queen Elizabeth attended?
Did she?
She's a huge horse lover.
I knew she was a horse fan.
But she attended for the first time. I mean, I want to say it's been in the last time flies. It feels like it was 5 years ago, maybe more than that.
Yeah.
But she had always wanted to come and finally made it.
Well, with the royal wedding that was in 2011, so that was William and Kate, with the amount of TV coverage that got, they say that the American population really caught some interest in fashion.
Okay.
In that type of fashion
that.
From seeing all that footage of everyone dressed so
with
wonderfully.
Fascinators and hats, and which
so
they do for weddings there.
They say that from 2011 on, really, I mean, the hats were still happening, but that really even revamped it even more for the Derby. I thought that was kind of funny.
I can see that, though. And did you know William, who has some horses apparently somewhere in Leaper's Fork, I've heard.
What?
Here in Nashville. Yeah.
Prince William?
I have heard that, and I've heard him be seen in Green Hills Mall and different things. So I think he has some kind of horse connect here locally. I have not bumped into William, but
wow.
Yeah.
That would be a sighting.
That would be.
Well, let's talk about winners and Triple Crown.
Well, the Triple Crown is the Kentucky Derby is the first of these 3 races that equal the Triple Crown. That's the same horse winning Kentucky Derby, the Belmont Stakes, and the Preakness.
Yes.
Has not happened very often, but and there's controversy even around that. I think like some horses that don't run the Derby that run the Belmont, or maybe somebody's not run either of those and then runs the Preakness. Some owners don't feel like that's fair because that horse has had more time to rest or whatever. But
I see.
anyway.
Oh, so it's almost like they're knocking out
Somebody
chances.
to get a Triple Crown. So there's controversy around all of that, but there's going to be. Haters gonna hate.
I know.
So anyhow,
it's true.
But what I think is so fascinating in looking at the Triple Crown winners, I'm not going to go into all the names and stuff, but first one, 1919.
Yeah.
To win a Triple Crown. 1930, we have another. 1935, 37, 41, 43, 46, 48. Not a Triple Crown until 73.
Yeah.
Chunk of time there. Many reasons why. Trainers start learning more. And there's things that start getting learned, different techniques to make this happen. So in 73, Secretariat has this Triple Crown. Then we have one in 77 and 78. Then we have a chunk of 37 years without a Triple Crown.
No one. Yeah.
Again, some people think, well, it's because, there's various reasons why people think that might have happened. But what I think is so fascinating is in 2015, 37 years later, you get one with American Pharaoh.
Yep.
And then in 2018, another.
Justify.
With Justify.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting. Like, we've talked about this before. Almost like when a runner breaks a record that nobody thought could ever get broken, and then the next year it gets broken again.
Yeah.
Or 2 years later. It's almost like that mental...
Yeah, it's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Triple Crown winners in your lifetime. But since 3 of those were in the 70s, just 2 in my lifetime. Yeah. And weird that those 2 were in the last 4 years.
The last 4 years.
So. That's weird. Well, the last 2 Triple Crown winners had the same trainer, Bob Baffert. Does he have any horses? Do you know? In this
I didn't
upcoming.
Well, I actually might have that information. I don't have it real handy though. I know he has one named Roadster.
Okay.
I don't know if he might have more than that, but I know Roadster is one of his. And there's various things on what you should look at to pick your winner. Lots of conflict on what you should look at and that kind of thing. Do you look at the trainer? Do you look at the jockey? Do you look at the recent winnings?
Yeah.
Lots of different things. But I did print out the contenders. Because we don't know. I mean, we're a week out, but it could change even.
That's true.
Something can happen.
But nobody will get added in, like I said.
But nobody... Well, I think there's actually 25 on the leaderboard.
Oh, okay.
As of yesterday.
Sure.
There was 25 in the leaderboard. There's only room for 20. So if somebody falls, we've still got somebody waiting.
Okay.
So I do have those names. I don't know that we need to go into all the names.
Oh, no. But do you have any that stood out to you?
But just by name alone, there's some fun ones. And the number 1 contender right now is named Tacitus.
Yeah.
With 150 points. But the number 2 is named Omaha Beach, which holds a prize in my heart.
Wow.
Because that's one of the D-Day beaches, and my birthday's June 6th. So,
D-Day. That's right.
Omaha Beach. Love the name.
I think a lot of people, I'm sorry, they place bets on names.
On names.
I mean, I'm just looking through the list for the first time.
How about the name Improbable? Love that name.
That's fun.
It's a great name. Code of Honor.
I was going to say Code of Honor would probably be just at a glance looking through this.
I like the name War of Will. It has
yeah.
Its father horse has got war in the name. I can't remember. Anyway, Country House. I kind of like that name just because I love the idea of a country house. But anyway, there's lots of great names, and I'd love to hear from people on what their pick is.
Who they're picking.
And why.
Are you betting? Are you just even doing like a little fun with friends bet? Nothing even official through the Derby. You know, we mentioned it's called the Run for the Roses because of the roses that are draped over the horse. Those are 400 roses that are sewn together by a local Kroger, and you can go to the Kroger the night before the Derby and watch them.
Okay,
I thought they even had some kind of
contest to be like to get to sew one on or something.
Oh, really?
I don't know if that's. I just remember hearing something about that.
That's fun.
Yeah. So,
well, Derby parties are big too. So I did want to touch on that.
At least all over the South.
So if the Derby is not in your reach, or not even something that you have interest in going and sweating through, or putting up the money for,
high dollar,
you can still have fun by hosting or attending a Derby party What would
the Kentucky Derby site even has a lot of fun ideas, and
they've got plates you can buy and like napkins.
Order programs. I think you have to order at least 5 programs, and that's $10 each and plus shipping or something. But there's things you can order, and there's official glasses every year that have the winners.
Oh, that's cool.
Different things like that.
Yeah.
So there's lots of fun things you can have for your party.
Right. If you wanted to be super official, you would follow that Woodford Reserve is the official bourbon of the Kentucky
Derby. And in fact, this is their mint julep recipe that
Woodford
I made
Reserves?
today. I didn't use Woodford Reserve. I used the old Bardstown that I just bought.
Yeah, you did.
At Willett. But it is 2 ounces of bourbon, a half an ounce of simple syrup, 3 fresh mint leaves, and crushed ice. So that's all. Like if you've never had a mint julep, it is very bourbony though.
Yeah.
Like, don't think you're getting something with creme de menthe in it.
No, it's not.
Or with a touch of it's bourbon with a little sweetener in it.
It is.
That's it.
It's good. This might be the first mint julep I've ever had though. That's so funny.
I've hosted many times where we watched the Derby, but I usually make my bourbon slush for
Which is so wonderful.
Instead. So anyway.
Well, cheers to the
mint
Kentucky
julep.
Derby. If you were having people over food-wise, what do you think is fun to serve up?
Well, 2 staples that I usually try to make. There is such a thing as the Derby pie. Mm-hmm. And it's a wonderful chocolate and pecan with some bourbon in it pie.
Yeah.
So I can give you my recipe.
That's a good one. I've had your Derby pie. It's wonderful.
From Patricia, a Louisville resident. She gave me her Derby pie recipe, so I can we can put that up if you like. Though I have it just written out, I'm not sure we can find it. But anyhow,
the war of electronic versus handwritten recipes.
Actually, I think this one might have come via email, but still, it's a personal one. And I also love these. I've made them for you many times. The Kentucky Hot Brown Slider.
Yes.
I really like that.
We took those to Keeneland.
Yeah. So it's
good
based
tailgate finger
on
food.
The Kentucky Hot Brown Sandwich. So it has turkey and bacon and, it's really good. I have a few new recipes I may try.
Okay.
I forgot your husband's going to be out of town. So one I pulled was for him. He's a lover of popcorn, and I found a bacon bourbon caramel popcorn.
Yum!
So, Derby or no Derby, we may have to try this.
Sounds wonderful.
Philip, get ready. We'll have to make that. I thought this was hilarious. I told you I had ordered some Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Well, I found a recipe from the chef at Churchill Downs that's called American Pharaoh salad, like Farro.
A play on the previous two Triple Crown winners ago.
Yeah, so it's a salad that just has tomato, cucumber, basil, like kind of a fresh salad, and some of these things are heavy. So I thought, that sounds like a nice fresh summer salad. And then another thing I found on the Woodford Reserve, it's a Woodford Reserve recipe, is barrelhead brie, where they bake brie.
Come on.
Put a little bit of their bourbon, apricots, raisins, cranberries, dried cherries, hazelnuts on it.
Yum.
Does that not sound like glory?
It does.
So, anyway, that's just a few ideas. But the Kentucky Derby site has
cheese, and bourbon.
Cheese, and bourbon.
That sounds good.
Sign me up for that. Maybe have some grits.
Really?
Because we've got me talking grits.
Because we've talked about them. Well, it's a fun themed party. I think it works because it's sports, so you can grab the guys, but it's highly fashion driven with the big hats.
Right.
So even if you're not into sports, if you're a true girly girl and you just like being fashionable and stylish, you can come to a sporting party.
And can I say, shout out to the dudes in their clothing, too. Because
that's true.
While I'm not a fan of, like, some of the over-the-top, like I have a friend whose husband has a jacket of horses running all over it. I mean, it's hilarious.
Oh, my gosh. That reminds me of this gown I saw that someone had on Instagram. A yellow evening gown with a train.
Okay.
Had brown horses all the way down the train. It was But it was
hilarious.
It was beautiful.
Okay. Beautiful?
It looked like hand painted.
It sounds hilarious, but okay.
It looked hand painted on there. It was beautiful.
That's
obviously
so fun.
Limited occasions that you could wear something like that too.
But I love seeing guys dressed up in their spring suits that are, seersucker or these light summery fabrics.
Yes.
Gingham
all
shirts.
Sorts of pastels.
I love that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the fashion goes further than just the ladies. It's for all to participate.
Well, lots of derby parties I find are fundraisers and they're high ticket events. So if you can't afford one of those, host your own.
Yeah.
We're going to be watching it together, enjoying some all the
Snacks
items we've mentioned today. And it's just such a wonderful Southern tradition.
Yeah,
so
long-time tradition.
And hey, even if you can't make it to a party or don't know of any that are happening near you, take the 2 minutes to watch
on NBC
the race. What a small commitment to make to see such a Southern tradition. And there are lots of celebrities as well.
Oh, yeah.
That show up. So if you get to watch even the coverage beforehand, which we oftentimes do,
and one of
you'll
my
get to
favorite
see
things
them
in that pre-coverage more than the red carpet is I love when they start telling the stories of these horses.
Yes.
And, just
overcomers.
Some of these overcoming stories, if that doesn't encourage you, I don't know what will, because that's my favorite. I enjoy that more than the red carpet part.
Yeah.
Of just hearing about these horses. In fact, I love watching or following Kentucky Derby and seeing some of these different horses. They've been showing a few of the horses that are arriving, and you see them getting off the trailer, not off the plane, but off the trailers and different things like that. And anyhow, I pulled up one picture I wanted to show you of a thoroughbred that was just born. And I thought, whoa, look at the legs on this brand new young pony.
Wow, so tall. All legs.
All legs. And I just thought, that looks like a thoroughbred that will grow into those legs.
Absolutely.
The legs are just... In fact, when I did a tour of Churchill Downs, they told us that those thoroughbreds can go from 0 to 40 miles an hour in 4 strides.
My goodness.
So just to see the power of this animal and the musculature of these animals is quite
It makes
amazing.
you understand the term horsepower.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
Oh, my goodness.
So the equine world is pretty fascinating.
It is. Well, hope you guys have a good Derby day.
Yes.
And we will be back with more Southern cultural topics next time. We've mentioned it before, but we so enjoy hearing from you all and hearing what you are enjoying and any topics that you think would make for good content here on the podcast.
And what kind of grits you're making.
Yeah, really. All right. Well, y'all have a good week, and we will see you here next time.
Thanks, y'all.